He-Man has become a pop culture icon, with his magic sword defending his home planet of Eternia. But did you know he came from Star Wars toys, or that he once became Shazam? Here's the untold truth about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. The 1980s saw a major explosion in action figures. This was largely due to the Star Wars film franchise and the popular figurines of characters like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader made by Kenner Toys. Surprisingly, however, Kenner wasn't the first toy company that received an offer to produce Star Wars toys. In 1976, Ray Wagner, the CEO of Mattel Incorporated, declined George Lucas's asking price of $750,000 to produce a toy line of Star Wars action figures. Wagner undoubtedly ended up regretting the decision when the toys became one of the most lucrative parts of the film franchise. Mattel then quickly launched several medieval and science fiction-themed toy lines of their own. They hoped to create the next hit action figure in the bargain. According to the book Mastering the Universe, He-Man and the Rise and Fall of a Billion-Dollar Idea, Roger Sweet, a designer at Mattel, decided on the generic name He-Man to build a toy line around. Although none of the aspects of He-Man's mythology had been developed yet, the simplicity of the name was key. This gave the company's team of designers a mostly blank canvas that they could use to create virtually any story world they imagined. Today, it's impossible to separate the name He-Man from the image of a massively muscled, blonde barbarian. But when Mattel began developing the He-Man concept, the toy line could have gone in any number of different directions. At one point, Mattel executives were given a choice between 3 prototype models of He-Man: a barbarian, a soldier, and a science fiction hero. Weirdly, the sci-fi version of He-Man wore a helmet that looked very much like the Mandolorian helmet worn by Boba Fett in The Empire Strikes Back. But the helmet reappeared in a recent version of Vicron in the Masters of the Universe Classics line. Ultimately, the barbarian version of He-Man proved the most appealing to the executives. The He-Man and the Masters of the Universe backstory then went on to become a sword and sorcery epic. However, it's strange to think that at one point, He-Man could have been Mattel's version of a Mandalorian. Lucasfilm likely wouldn't care for the design though, so it's lucky that He-Man decided to bear his distinctive pageboy haircut and tanned face to the world. Seeing how He-Man and the Masters of the Universe developed from a toy line into an animated series is interesting because it reveals how He-Man's story world has been regularly reimagined. Mattel included a mini-comic with its action figures that helped flesh out the characters' backstories. Originally, He-Man was a barbarian from an Eternian tribe that existed in a post-apocalyptic world. Armed with advanced weaponry, He-Man defended Castle Grayskull from his enemy, Skeletor. Interestingly, He-Man and Skeletor both possessed half of the original Power Sword, which reflected the way kids could combine the action figure swords into one. By 1983, Mattel had partnered with Filmation to develop a He-Man cartoon that provided He-Man's most popular origin. Now he was Prince Adam of Eternia, who had been endowed with the power to transform into He-Man using the Power Sword. This power was given to him by the Sorceress of Castle Grayskull. Adam could also turn his cowardly pet Cringer into the fearsome Battle Cat and fought with his allies against Skeletor's forces. Other cartoons continued tweaking He-Man's origin. In The New Adventures of He-Man, He-Man was summoned to the future to defend mankind, reviving his science fiction roots. In the 2002 He-Man and the Masters of the Universe reboot, Adam was a spoiled teen who reluctantly became He-Man to rescue his kingdom from Skeletor. While most animated series keep the most popular beats, there's always room for some revision. He-Man may be Eternia's greatest champion, but he has roots in another world, Earth. According to the 1980s cartoon series, Prince Adam's mother, Queen Marlena, was an astronaut from Earth who crash-landed on Eternia and ended up marrying the planet's king, Randor. One episode, The Rainbow Warrior, referenced Marlena's piloting skills, but she was mostly relegated to being a background player. In 1985, the made-for-TV animated film He-Man and She-Ra: A Christmas Special was released. In the film, Grayskull's jester, Orko, accidentally travels to Earth during Christmas time.
Something tells me I'm in big trouble.
The Eternian magician brings back a couple of Earth children, causing Queen Marlena to reminisce about Christmas. Prince Adam actually got to play Santa Claus at one point, showing how Marlena had been influencing Eternia's culture. Most interestingly, however, it turns out the Earth that Marlena is from also exists in the DC universe. This can be seen in DC Comics Presents number 47, where He-Man acknowledges Marlena told him stories about Superman, the protector of her homeworld. Both He-Man and his alter ego Prince Adam were voiced by John Irwin in the 1980s cartoon. Irwin gave He-Man a majestic, authoritative voice while giving Adam a more laid-back attitude.
We have no time to lose. By the power of Grayskull!
This helped differentiate the two personas, even though the show's original character designs made the two of them look identical, save for He-Man's darker tan. Beyond He-Man, Irwin has an impressive list of live-action and voice acting credits to his name, including roles in Rawhide, Back to the Future 2, and Babe. However, his most famous role was Morris the Cat, the feline spokesperson and face of 9 Lives cat food during the 1970s. Yep, the voice of He-Man got famous delivering snarky lines as a fat orange cat who rivaled Garfield in deadpan humor with lines like,
"Who says I need improving?"
The He-Man cartoon probably missed out on a golden opportunity to also cast Irwin as He-Man's feline steed Battle Cat, but he was voiced by celebrated voice actor Alan Oppenheimer. He-Man may look like a warrior straight out of the sword and sorcery epics of Conan the Barbarian, but the 1980s cartoon went out of its way to show him dealing with problems non-violently. While he was capable of lifting mountains and pushing a moon out of orbit, He-Man rarely used his great strength to hurt people. Plus, he usually limited his punching targets to robots or buildings. Many episodes showed him using diplomacy to convince potential enemies to change their ways. He even got Daimar the Demon King to reconsider invading Eternia in the episode Daimar the Demon. A lot of this is likely due to the producers wanting parents to believe the cartoon would teach their children good values, so they could keep watching the show and buying the toys. Much like G.I. Joe, the episodes even regularly ended with a moral. Prince Adam, Teela, or the other characters instructed viewers on the importance of telling the truth or working problems out by asking for help. Superheroes typically wear a symbol or emblem that represents their power, from Superman's S-shaped family crest to Batman's Bat Totem. In He-Man's case, the character designers initially placed an iron cross in the center of his chest harness to enhance his distinctive look. The problem was, the Iron Cross was appropriated by the Nazi Party, who placed a swastika symbol in its center. Notably, the swastika itself is an ancient symbol that had been used as a symbol of well-being by many societies before Adolf Hitler appropriated it for the Nazi flag. As a result, any positive connotations of these symbols have been overshadowed by their negative use, and they continue to be employed as a hate symbol by extremist groups today. Naturally, He-Man didn't wear a swastika on his Iron Cross, and being a hero of the planet Eternia, the symbol likely meant something different. But it was eventually realized that his chest emblem could get people thinking the wrong thing. Because of this, more modern depictions of He-Man have modified the Iron Cross into an H symbol. Mattel came out with a lot of creative action figures when it developed the original He-Man toy line, but the weirdest characters were members of Skeletor's entourage. Many of them, particularly Evil Lyn and Beastman, went on to become major figures in the animated series. One action figure was so ridiculous the story editors vowed to never use him in the cartoon. That would be Stinkor, a humanoid skunk whose power was that he smelled really bad and gave off toxic odors. Mattel manufactured the toy to intentionally smell bad by treating it with musky-smelling patchouli oil, and then it earned a reputation for stinking up toy boxes nationwide. Stinkor's action figure also came with a mini-comic, The Stench of Evil, where he attacked He-Man with his horrible body odor, but when the character was presented to the Filmation staff, they reportedly burst out laughing and decided to keep him out of their scripts. Stinkor finally made it to television in the 2002 He-Man cartoon reboot, where it was revealed that he was once a thief who became mutated by a chemical accident. Notably, Stinkor isn't nose blind to his stink and must wear an oxygen mask, making his ability one of the worst superpowers to have. While He-Man was marketed toward boys, girls liked the Masters of the Universe too. Mattel decided to capitalize on this by creating He-Man's twin sister, Adora, aka She-Ra. She was given her own toy line and an animated series called She-Ra, Princess of Power. She-Ra defended the world of Etheria from the evil horde after being given a sword of protection that imbued her with superhuman strength, speed, durability, and agility. Although She-Ra was established as He-Man's physical equal, she may have been his superior in at least one respect. her sword of protection could transform into anything she required. Various episodes of her cartoon showed She-Ra turning the sword into a rope, a shield, a boomerang, a magnet, and even an ice maker. Frankly, by the time She-Ra started turning her sword into a parachute, things got a little ridiculous. While fans may now look back on the original He-Man animated series with fondness, many admit the cartoon's plots could get a little silly. Filmation managed to get some serious talent working on these episodes, however, and many of their staff members went on to have major careers in DC and Marvel Comics. Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, the minds behind the DC animated universe that included the award-winning Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, and Justice League Unlimited, got their start on the He-Man cartoon. Timm worked as a background artist and layout designer who also wrote He-Man mini-comics. Dini was a scriptwriter for the cartoon, and wrote episodes such as Quest for He-Man, where He-Man was rendered amnesic and banished to a contaminated planet to teach kids about the dangers of pollution. Likewise, J. Michael Straczynski, who had runs on The Amazing Spider-Man and Fantastic Four for Marvel Comics, served as the story editor for both He-Man and She-Ra. It might not be as slick as today's animated series, but for many, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe helped pave the modern age of superhero animated shows. He-Man may be the most powerful man in the universe, but how does he stack up against the other most powerful hero in the universe, Superman? As it turns out, the comics have addressed this question multiple times. DC Comics Presents number 47 saw Superman transported to Eternia by a mystic cloud where he met up with He-Man. Although the two started out as allies, Skeletor was able to take magical control of Superman and pit him against He-Man. While it looked like Superman had the upper hand, he was able to shake off Skeletor's control and break off his attack. However, Superman and He-Man had a much more brutal fight in the Injustice vs. Masters of the Universe miniseries that came out in 2018. It took place in the Injustice universe where Superman became the dictator of Earth. The story saw several DC heroes journey to Eternia and recruit He-Man to fight the Man of Steel. While He-Man's mystical power allowed him to pummel Superman, some manipulation by Skeletor caused He-Man to lose his connection to Grayskull's magic. This caused him to revert back to Prince Adam, leaving him at the mercy of Superman, who considered him less of a threat than Captain Carrot. He-Man is often compared to Conan the Barbarian, but there's one other superhero he shares a lot in common with, Billy Batson, aka the DC hero known as Shazam or Captain Marvel. Like Billy, Prince Adam is a young man imbued with mystical powers that allow him to become a mighty hero. Superman himself made this connection in the Injustice vs. Masters of the Universe miniseries, and fortunately for Adam, so did a certain wizard. During the course of the story, Skeletor managed to steal the power of Shazam and attempted to use it to conquer Eternia. Instead, he got himself killed and inadvertently passed the power of the gods to Prince Adam, who was summoned before the wizard as his new champion. By simply shouting Shazam, Adam transformed into a white-garbed being with similarities to both Shazam and He-Man. Newly empowered, the Shazam He-Man made short work of the corrupt Injustice Superman. It was a scene bursting with fanboy energy, although He-Man later went back to his standard look and powers. While this might disappoint some crossover fans, when you're already the most powerful man in the universe, being a super strong barbarian is enough. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite TV shows and movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.